So I came across this video telling me the 10 most read books of all time. And when I looked at that list, my first thought was, are these really the most popular books of all time? Hello and welcome back to the Looking Glass World. My name is Aradhana Mathews, and today I am taking a look at this list of apparently 10 most read books or series of all time. So we have to answer this question first. Is this really data from all time, from the entirety of human history? The answer is most likely no. I found that most of this data probably comes from the last 50 years or so, but just to give them a fair shot, let's say maybe these are the most read books of all time for the human beings currently in existence. So that spans back about 120 years or so. So we'll take that as our base. Most read books in the last 100 years. Ready? Let's go. So at number 10, we have The Da Vinci Code, which has sold over 60 million copies worldwide. So a synopsis that I found online says that The Da Vinci Code is a mind-bending, best-selling novel that offers a controversial version of the search for the Holy Grail and the life of Jesus, suggesting that Christ, the Son of God, was also a husband and a father. You can see why this caused the stir that it did. Primarily because of Christianity, and anytime you play with it, it always causes a conversation. Even my article on the subjective nature of Christian morality had people writing like essays in the comment section, so I'll link that in the description if you want to go check it out. But yeah, touch Christianity and there's going to be a loud noise. The author really does make his storyline very believable. If it was something totally unbelievable, I don't think anybody would care. But to the author's credit, he's managed to make this overlap of his fictional world and the real world very, very believable, almost blurring that line completely. In fact, I found an article, multiple articles actually, that have gone into exactly what is true about the Da Vinci Code and what isn't, just in case anybody was wondering. But I can understand why the Da Vinci Code made it to the top 10 most read books of all time. It's fun. It's a really fun, thrilling read, provided we realize that it is, at the end of the day, fiction. Next up, at number 9, we have the Twilight series. I remember when I was in school, somewhere around 7th grade or something, there was a friend of mine who was reading the Twilight books way before any of us knew what Twilight was. And she was like hooked to that series. And so I asked her, what is it about? And then she said vampires and it's really cool and whatever. And I was like, oh, that sounds exciting. But then the movies came out and I saw them. And then I was like, ooh. To be honest, the movies were not for me, and so I never ended up reading the books, so maybe I'm missing a lot here. I'm speaking from what I know, which are the films, and I will say that even though they're not for me, I admire the author's strategic thinking, because vampires are one of the few monsters that have a sort of erotic trope, as we can see in the multiple cinematic depictions of them through time. And what this author has done is she's taken this eroticism and made it palatable to a previously untapped market, which is your pubescent girls, who are just sort of entering that stage of like sexual curiosity and things like that. And this series is perfect for them. At number 8, we have The Alchemist, having sold 80 million copies. I actually read The Alchemist only fairly recently, but I did review it on my bookstagram, so you can read the full review there if you want. But the synopsis of the book that I wrote very briefly was that it follows the journey of a shepherd who has the dream of finding a treasure among the pyramids of Egypt. His story is filled with words of wisdom from his mentors, so much so that you often feel like you're reading life lessons interspersed with a story rather than the other way around. If these kind of words of wisdom and that sort of philosophical books are your thing, then you will really enjoy it. But otherwise, it can feel a little bit preachy if that's not what you're looking for. But I still understand the appeal. However, one person in my comment section in Instagram pointed out that the book is very male heavy. And I realized that is true. Aside from the fact that the story is about a male protagonist, all the mentors are male, and the females are sort of just relegated to the sidelines. And if one makes an appearance, it's as a lover, and her dream is to just wait for her lover to come back. So it's kind of really minimizing the women there. I'm not going to go too deep into that at the risk of being called overly sensitive. So if you look at it as like a sort of male versus female perspective, then yes, it is heavily skewed toward the male. If you're more interested in the philosophy itself and the messages being taught through the book, then I'd say it's still okay. These are universal things that apply to everybody because it's about following your dreams, the self-doubt that comes along the way, the hardships, how to face the challenges, and these sort of things. So that broadly, everybody can learn something from. So I'm not super mad at it. I understand why this book is so popular. At number 7, we have the Game of Thrones series, which sold over 90 million copies. Wow, that is really getting up there in the numbers, but I totally get it. This is a series I will admit I haven't read yet, but for a very specific reason, and that's because I'm waiting for the last one to be published, and then I will read the whole thing. But I have seen the series, and it is very violent, gory, sexually explicit, all of that. Overall, it reads like a political thriller, but set in the world of fantasy, which is what makes it so beautifully intricate and layered. There's so many subplots and characters. It's no surprise that the whole world was hooked by the entire series, except for the very last season, which I think we can all agree was rough. At number 6, we have the Lord of the Rings series, having sold 120 million copies. This one I don't have many thoughts on because neither have I read the series nor watched it, but I did read The Hobbit and I really enjoyed it. And I can see that the Lord of the Rings fandom is pretty intense. So that's great. I have no further thoughts. At number 5, we have 50 Shades of Grey, which beat The Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and sold 150 million copies. I am not surprised. It's a very, very old marketing trick, which is that sex sells. The end. But that brings us to number 4, which I'm very happy to see on this list, which is the Harry Potter series, which has sold over 500 million copies. Sex sells, but can't beat Harry Potter. The Harry Potter series was a childhood companion of mine and got me through all the rough times, and I've developed a very strong emotional attachment to it, to the point where I would religiously read the entire series every single summer vacation. And as an adult, I have all of the Jim Kay versions that have been published so far. I love his art style. It's so beautiful, and the hand paintings and the intricate drawings, love it. And I also, of course, got my Hogwarts house set. I am a Ravenclaw. Totally get it. Very proud to see Harry Potter on this list. At number 3, we have a book that I know nothing about, which is called Quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I'm very sorry if I'm not. But it sold 800 million copies. I have not read it. I have no idea what it's about, but wow, that number is impressive. If you've read it, let me know what you thought in the comments. At number 2 is another book I have not read. It is the Quran, which has sold 1 billion copies. Not qualified to really give you an opinion about it, but there you have it. That's number 2. Coming to number 1, which is completing a full circle when it comes to Christianity, is the Bible. So this has sold so many that they're not sure what the exact number is, but it's somewhere between 2 and 5 billion copies. Even though I won a scripture knowledge prize as a child, I have to say that my knowledge of the Bible is, I would say, patchy at best. I don't think the Bible and the Quran should be on this list because religious texts, I feel, are a completely different category. People are not reading the Bible the same way they're reading the Da Vinci Code. It's a completely different space. But there you have it. Those are my thoughts on the top 10 most read books of all time. What do you think of this list? Were you surprised by any of the things you saw here today? Let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to read interesting short stories and articles, you can head to my website at aradhanamatthews.com or join our Instagram community at The Looking Glass World. And leave me a like, make sure to comment and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.